Welcome to another episode of the Point by Point Tennis Podcast. With you is Carlos and Jish.
Hey,
And today we are here with you a little bit differently than we were planning. We had some technical difficulties with the live streaming, but nonetheless, we're here. We are going to record this episode and then shortly after upload it to our YouTube so that you have it there as soon as we're done. So today we're going to be talking about the Indian Wells results, and we're also going to jump into the Miami Open draws because tennis never stops. So there's another tournament starting in a few days. So Jish, how are you doing?
good. How about you, Carlos?
I'm doing good. Man, I am
Yeah,
so excited and so pumped up to talk about this tournament that just passed because,
lots of
man,
good tennis.
Carlos Alcaraz, I seemed like he fulfilled everything that I was envisioning him that he could be. He did that for this particular final. And again, on the women's side, we had the same two players that we saw in the Australian Open final,
Hmm.
showing that, Iga's not the only one at the top of the game. So this was a really, really good tournament. A lot of young players fulfilling their potential. We had Sinner and Alcaraz face each other in the semifinals. We had Felix and Alcaraz face each other in the quarterfinals. So a
Yep.
lot of the young guys really delivered, and super exciting. So let's start with the biggest stories. So we talked about it already, right? Carlos Alcaraz, he wins his second Masters 1000 on the hard court, third overall,
Crazy.
winning Indian Wells for the first time, becoming the youngest player ever to win the Sunshine Double in his career. And now he's going to try to do it in the same year in Miami, trying to defend this title. He comes now to number one in the world again, just for a week. Let's see if he'll be able to extend it if he defends his title in Miami.
Right.
So good results there from him, and he ends the streak for Daniil Medvedev at 19 matches. What a great run for Daniil Medvedev to
Yeah.
win three titles in a row and then make a final here as well at the Masters 1000 event. So good stuff there. Then on the women's side, we had a rematch at the Australian Open final. We had Elena Rybakina facing Arina Sabalenka. And this time, Elena Rybakina gets revenge. So Sabalenka won their meeting in Australia, giving Sabalenka her first Grand Slam title. But Rybakina this time proves to be too much, and she handled the conditions a little bit better than Sabalenka did. And she wins her first Masters 1000 to go along with her Wimbledon title. So great stuff. She beat Iga Swiatek in the semifinals on a route to that title. So pretty big statement there. She beat now Iga twice in the biggest events of the year so far. Um, and Sabalenka also shows that she's there at the top of the game to stay
Yeah.
for the time being. So that's exciting that we have three really good players at the top of the game. On the women's side, we got some good exciting players for the men, and now the other thing that we're going to be talking about today, once we jump into our main segments, is the draw in Miami, and we'll see if Alcaraz can defend the title there, and if Iga can bounce back from her loss in Indian Wells, and defend her title as well in Miami. So let's start with the conversation in Indian Wells. Jish, give me your thoughts on what you
Oh
saw
man.
from Carlos Alcaraz.
Oh yeah. He was playing his attack tennis. I really enjoyed watching him play. I mean, we saw him with an injury in Rio,
Yeah.
and I was actually kind of worried that that could spill over to this tournament. But he did a really good job to recover and get ready for this tournament. I mean, he did not look injured at all,
No.
from what I saw. He was running at probably 100%. He was, hitting the ball as hard as I've seen him hit, and he had some clear tactics that worked out in his favor. And I remember last time we chatted in the last podcast, we had mentioned that, you know, if Carlos was going to play like how he did when he was, struggling with his injury in that last set against Cam Norrie in the final, um, he he could, do really well,
Yeah,
if he applied a little bit more of that free hitting,
yeah.
um,
First
which
strike
just
as first option.
first try, yeah, just attack and go out, and hit the ball pretty hard.
Yeah,
And he did that. I saw some of those elements in his game this time, and he did a good job, I think, transitioning from defense to offense. Um, there was definitely some points against Sinner and Medvedev where he was in the back, defending really well, and then next thing you know, he just hits a ball and he's in the net and falling for a winner. So yeah, very impressed. I think this is the one of the best I've ever seen him play.
yeah.
So, what are your thoughts, Carlos?
Yeah, I agree. Specifically talking just about the final, um, I honestly think this is the best match that Alcaraz has played since he's become this um, you know well-known player. I
Hmm.
think that in terms of the when I say the best match, maybe not the most exciting or honestly, it's very difficult to replicate what we saw in the U.S. Open, right? Like, Sinner
Mm.
Alcaraz quarterfinal in terms of just pure quality from both players. In a five-set match, okay, that match was definitely better than anything I've seen in a long time, right? Um,
Hmm.
but just in terms of Alcaraz level of dominance, going with a strategy. And if you could draw up the perfect game for him to execute, that final was his best in that for me. And the reason is because he he typically wants to hit the crap out of the ball all the time, because he just has so much power and he's so exciting. But sometimes it's not right to do that, and you have to make sure.
Pick and choose the right moments.
Exactly. You want to pick and choose the right moments to do so. And he could not have done that any better than he did in that final against Medvedev. Um,
Mm.
Medvedev is the type of player that wants to make you miss, right? He's going to retrieve every single ball, and he's going to be very efficient with his power. He's always going to hit the ball, 60, 70% power, and then wait for the easy one to put away, right? And Alcaraz always seemed to want to hit a winner from every position on the court, very low percentage. And this is exactly the opposite of what he typically does. And he
Hmm.
made Medvedev with his game look very ordinary. Like he made him look impotent. And
Yeah,
that's not a knock on Medvedev. That's just how well
he played
Alcaraz
him.
strategized for
Yeah,
this match, for this matchup in particular, because you know, I think this court, honestly, I'm surprised that Medvedev even made the final. Like, it's not suited for his game, right? And I think this court is tailor made for Alcaraz. Like, he just
yeah,
has too much time because the court is so slow, but Alcaraz has so much power to hit through it that what happens is that his opponent's ball just sits up for him to just get crushed, you know? So you almost have to fight fire and fire to be able to beat him in a court like this. You have to be somebody like Sinner, right? That wants to counterattack, redirect the power with more power. And I feel like he is the type of player that has more of a shot to beat Alcaraz on this type of surface. Or,
yeah.
somebody we didn't see in this tournament, which was Djokovic. Um, but honestly, Medvedev, this is a bad matchup for him on this surface, honestly.
Yeah, what did Medvedev call this surface? It's not a hard court, right? That's what he
He
said.
he said it was a clay court or something like that, or a hybrid.
Yeah.
Um, it was
Yeah,
Medvedev was he didn't
it's
win the match, but
hilarious.
he won the quotes battle on this tournament because he had so many good ones. There was one where he
Yeah.
said that he was gonna go pee slower than this court
Oh,
was
right.
or something, and he
Gosh.
didn't care if he got like a time violation or something like that. Man, Medvedev had
Yeah.
a love hate relationship with this court. He even in his speech he was saying,
That's what he said, right?
yeah,
Yeah.
he was like saying thank you court because you made it difficult and challenging, but you made me make you allowed me to reach the final, so something like that. So he's a funny character. I love Medvedev and that because of that because he's a really funny character. But in terms of the tennis, there, I mean, it's just a bad matchup for him
Mm,
on this surface. I think in like in an indoor event, in a faster surface, I think things might change.
yeah.
Maybe on grass, it might be closer as well. Though Medvedev has had his struggles on grass, but last year he actually played much better in the warm up events, and he wasn't able to play Wimbledon, of course. But I think this is a bad matchup for Medvedev on this surface. And the thing that really impressed me about Alcaraz is he used all of his weapons in this match.
Mm,
He served in volley when he had to. You know how Medvedev likes to return like 10 feet behind the baseline if he can, you know.
yeah.
And Alcaraz would, he would hit
Take
his kick
advantage of
serve
it. Yeah.
right and make him go all the way to the corner and be at the net. And Medvedev, honestly, to his credit, he hit the crap out of the ball from way back. And many times, some of those times, Alcaraz had to like go on the stretch to reach the volley, but he was able to. Like he was able to cover the
Mm,
net well. He was ready for it. He knows how to play at net, and that's the thing that separates him against other players who have potential, but they just don't have the variety that Alcaraz can bring along with this power that he has. Um, and it was in full display. There was one game in the match where Alcaraz was serving, and he hit three drop shot winners in a row on his serve. I mean, it was just toying with Medvedev at that point. It was just something I never thought I would see Medvedev get so completely annihilated
not all.
like that. So it was just an impressive performance from Alcaraz for sure.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, let's see how he does in Miami because he's been playing a lot of tennis, I think.
He has, but I think he's fine. I mean, he skipped the tournament that he was going to play because of the injury.
Yeah.
So I think he'll be fresh. I think he'll be able to play.
Recover in time.
He didn't drop a set in this tournament, so he's not that
That's true.
overworked.
I guess I mean he's hitting the ball really hard and I don't know. Yeah, you're right. Maybe he's gonna be fresh.
Yeah, I think one thing if you're good to move on from the final, um, one thing um, that I saw that was really important for him was in his matchups with Sinner and Felix Auger-Aliassime, right? The
Mm,
way he was able to come through those in straight sets, um, and importantly, you know, with Felix, he actually played a fantastic match. He played incredibly well. Um, he was especially winning the longer rallies like consistently. He must have won
mm,
like 70 to 80% of the rallies that went above 5 or 6 shots between him and Felix. But he was also winning a lot of cheap points on serve, so that was good. And especially with Sinner, he really needed that because that was the one match where, well, apart from the match with Griezborg, where he was honestly like 50% of his potential, but Griezborg, thankfully, right, he's not the most dangerous player for somebody like Alcaraz, so
yeah.
wasn't able to take advantage of that. But the other match that Alcaraz was shaky was definitely the match with Sinner. And honestly, he should have lost that first set against Sinner. But what actually kept him in these matches, and that match in particular, was the fact that he was winning a lot of cheap points on serve. And that is the one knock on him, from last year, right? That he wasn't able to win a lot of cheap points on serve. So I think something's changing there. I think he's trying to, it's not that he's serving faster. Um, it's more that he's more intelligent with his serve and he's able to locate it a little bit better. It's not
Yeah.
perfect, right? It's not perfect, but he is winning a lot of cheap points on serve compared to other times, especially in those later rounds in Indian Wells. So what did you think of that?
Yeah, I think you're right there. I mean, it's a big factor if you get your serves in and get those cheap
Yeah,
points. I mean, I yeah, so maybe he's not that tired.
yeah. And honestly, it's the thing that made Federer so good, right?
Yeah,
Federer used to win a lot of cheap points, and sometimes he wasn't even playing well from the from the ground. But
yeah.
I'm always gonna remember as a Nadal fan, as you can see right up here.
Mhm.
Um, I remember the match that he played against Federer in Wimbledon the year before he actually beat Federer, the 2007.
2007. Okay.
And honestly, Nadal was the better player in that match and from the ground, but Federer had like something above like 30 or something aces. He just had so many big serves in crucial moments.
Hmm.
And he ended up winning two tiebreak sets in the first four. The first four, they went to five, right? They split the first two, but the first two sets, Nadal won comfortable his sets, and Federer ended up winning 7-6, both of like in tiebreaks, both of his sets, and the serve was really kept him in that and gave him enough time to find his game in the fifth set where he actually dominated. So if you don't
Hmm.
have that, right, you don't have that weapon when your ground strokes are not working, then that's something that's gonna limit you, right? You have to be able to win matches when you're not playing your best from the ground, and that's
Hmm.
something that Alcaraz was struggling a little bit with. But in this tournament, it really, for me, it was an eye-opening thing because he really was in a bit of trouble with Sinner in that first set, and his serve really got him out of trouble a lot. And even in the second set, where he did win that more comfortably, but there were moments where he was just making a lot of errors from the ground, but then he would hit a few like bombs, aces, or like easy set up an easy first shot winner with the serve. So I think that was something that stood out to me when watching Alcaraz in this tournament.
Nice.
So
Yeah,
what
he's
did you
playing
think
really well.
of? Yeah, what did you think of the other guy? So we talked a lot about Alcaraz.
Other guys, yeah.
What do you think about Sinner,
I was I
Felix?
was I was impressed by Felix and Sinner, and also Tiafo. I mean, he
Yeah,
got to the semis. It's not an easy feat.
he played
Yeah,
well
I
against
think
Medvedev too.
he did. He did. I mean, I would say Sinner. I mean, on these big matches, if he, I just wish he could string the high quality throughout the whole tournament.
Yeah,
Like I think he plays someone really good like Alcaraz or Djokovic in the Wimbledon. Uh,
yeah.
I mean, he had his chances, and um, he just has to capitalize on some of them. I think it's gonna come soon. I mean, the hard work I think is paying off for him. He's
Hmm.
clearly gotten stronger. I think his ground strokes have gotten even better. Not
Yeah.
that he really needed him to get any better, but we saw some of his backhands in this tournament are just
Oh yeah.
so good. So, and yeah, he's gotten a lot stronger, I think. I mean, you could just see it in his physique. So I'm excited for him. I hope he does well in Miami. So
Yeah.
and Felix, yeah, I think he did pretty well too. I mean,
It's the
not
first
too
time he
much
reaches
thoughts.
this far in the
There you
Wells, so
go.
that's good.
Yeah. So um, yeah, and Tiafo, I didn't think he would make it that far in this tournament either, but he's also I underestimate how fast he is every time I see him.
Yeah.
And he gets the balls that I didn't think he could get to. So
He serves
he did
pretty
play.
well too. Like
He does. He hits the ball
it is
hard.
a weapon. It is a weapon for him.
Yeah.
And he
Yeah.
does play pretty well at net. I mean, he is not like a typical serve and volley type,
Hmm.
player, but he can finish
He's
at net.
comfortable out there. Yeah.
He's comfortable. Yeah, he can improve, but he's definitely more
Hmm.
comfortable than a lot of players.
Yeah.
So and that's something
And he
that
has
helps
the
him.
attacking style quite a
Yeah,
bit too, which I like
has
to
more
see.
confidence too, just with that result from last year, the U.S. Open. Winning, beating Rafa, making it all the way
Rafa.
to the semifinals. That's huge for somebody like him. With so
That
much
was like
pressure
his
being from.
breakthrough tournament, right?
Yeah,
So yeah, definitely.
absolutely. He has so
Yeah.
much pressure being American. It's a, the U.S. uh, has not had a Grand Slam champion in such a long time, right? The last
Hmm.
one, was probably Roddick.
Hmm.
or Agassi. One of the two were the last one.
Right. It's
So
probably Roddick then.
it's
Yeah.
probably Roddick. Yeah. So yeah, it's been a very long time. It's a lot of pressure from guys like him, like Taylor Fritz, for
Yeah. Let's
example,
talk
who
about
yeah,
Taylor.
he himself, like, he had a pretty good tournament. He was the defending champion here. He beat Nadal last year in the final. Um, and this year he actually ran into inspired Yannick Sinner. Sinner, honestly, he played. This match was the match of the tournament for me.
Mm.
In terms of level and excitement, because it was a very competitive match too. But I think Sinner just looks like he's serving a little bit harder this year, and he looks like he's attacking a lot more. He's already made two finals in tournaments this year. He's won one of them,
Hmm.
and he he's also bulked up a little bit. He has a little bit more. He's a little bit leaner, which is weird to say because he's never looked not lean, but he's a little bit leaner, and he has a little bit more muscle.
Do you have a stat for that? Because
I don't have the stat, but
I'd like to
they were mentioning it in
challenge
the
that.
the coaches were mentioning it, so I think it's real. But it doesn't seem possible though. um,
I think he bulked.
yeah,
Definitely
yeah.
bulked.
But honestly, that's super important because he was getting injured a lot last year, and
Yeah.
that bulking up is going to help him, especially if he does it in a controlled manner, right? His team knows what it's doing and all that. Make sure that they're not making him go if too much bulk and then he becomes slower or something like that. But as long as they're doing it the right way, I think that's really good because he was injured a lot last year. That was the one thing that kept hampering him. He continued to have to retire from tournaments, especially early in the year. So the fact that he has been pretty healthy this year, so far, and he has played much better in some of these tournaments. I mean, if you could just compare the Australian Open from this year to last year, he got
Yeah.
crushed against Tsitsipas last year. Like, it wasn't even competitive. And this year, he almost took him out, right? And Tsitsipas eventually made the final. That by itself is a big improvement there. And
Mm.
then the results that he had, winning that tournament in Montpellier, making the final in Rotterdam, losing to Medvedev, and now making the semifinals in Indian Wells, losing to a guy who's just, you know, big three level talent, you know. So that's it's great from
Yeah.
Cincinnati, and I'm super excited about that. And I think he can live with Alcaraz. I think he can do it. He has the talent. He has a little bit less variety, and that might be the little bit of a difference between them a little bit right now.
Hmm.
But I think Sinner has all the tools.
I think
So
so too. I mean, I think Alcaraz and Sinner are what I look forward to in
yeah,
the future. Like, uh, outside of the big three, I think for just watching them play, um, is going to satisfy my tennis needs.
absolutely.
So yeah, I'm excited.
Yeah,
It makes me optimistic about the the future.
absolutely. Yeah, and I think just to close out the men's on this in the Wells talk, a few things that I'll mention. Tsitsipas lost in the first round. He looks like he's injured. For some reason, he's still planning to play. He still planned to play Indian Wells, and it is going to play Miami injured. So not sure what's going on with his head there, but
Huh. What
he
was the
doesn't look like
injury?
he's
Do
right.
you know?
I think it was just like something with either the elbow or the shoulder. It's something in the arm.
Okay.
Um, but it seems like it's not like incredibly detrimental, like something that he's not gonna get worse if he plays. But I just don't understand why he won't just get rest up and get fit for the clay, which is gonna be a better part of the season for him anyway. Uh,
Right.
but yeah, whatever. He had that result. He lost in the first round. He pretty much said in in the press conference before the tournament that he was expecting to lose in the first round, so that's what happened. Alexander Zverev came back and had a pretty good result. He
That
played a
is
great
true.
match against Medvedev. He pushed him really hard to 3 sets, and um, Medvedev was really losing it in that match actually with the court. It was a funny match. But yeah, it's good to see that, at least he's competitive, after this freak injury that he had. Because he was a big factor on the clay last year, and we're going to the clay right after Miami. So maybe he's going to be a factor in those Masters events. And I think apart from that, what stood out to me, Holger Rune didn't do quite as well in this tournament. Cam Norrie also seemed that he kind of hit a wall. In his
Yeah.
match against Tiafo, he really did not show up, and I was expecting him to win that, but Tiafo just played better.
Hmm.
But I think that's pretty much on the men. So let's quickly
Yeah.
cover the women's. So we had a final between Rybakina and Sabalenka again.
Sabalenka.
So a repeat of the Australian Open final. Do you have any initial thoughts on that?
Um, on that match in particular, I mean, I just liked how Rybakina is playing.
Mm-hmm.
I think she's so calm and composed on the court. I mean, even after winning, she had a similar reaction.
Yeah,
Just
she is
like,
like
just stone cold.
stone cold. Yeah,
Yeah. But she got the revenge, I
expressionless.
think, here,
Yeah,
which I'm happy for her. Her team seemed like she's supporting her very well, and yeah, she's a and sometimes we underestimate her. She's like a quiet person in the draw, but I mean, she took out some really good players. I mean, let's talk about Iga too, right here.
yeah,
Um, she looked really good. Iga looked great, but ran into a problem,
yeah.
pretty much a wall. I
She
think she hasn't figured that out.
she has a real problem against Rybakina, and I
Yeah,
think she's gonna have a real problem against Sabalenka too.
I think so too.
I think the big problem with Iga right now is that she she does not handle well power against her game. Like she's accustomed to have the most power in the matchup, and when she
Hmm.
does have that, then she just dominates, right?
She dominates. Yeah,
But she does not handle pace well. Like she does not, and she just wants to like she was continually trying to out hit Rybakina, and that was just a recipe for disaster, because she does not have the same power. She just doesn't. She
yeah.
hits the ball hard, but it's the problem is that she has too much spin on the ball. She's not a flat hitter, right? Which on this court should be good, but Rybakina, like she's tall, and that ball
Hmm.
from Swiatek just it's right in the hitting zone of Rybakina.
Yeah.
It's just a perfect shot for Rybakina to hit. Um, and she's just blasting her out the court every time. And instead of playing a little more defensive and trying to use her athleticism, which is much like athleticism wise, it's not even close, right? Swiatek is much more athletic and fast than Rybakina. So, but she's not
Hmm.
using that in that matchup, and I don't understand why. She's trying to just out hit her, and it's not gonna happen. So she just got completely clobbered in that match. And Sabalenka, on the other hand, she does have power to compete with Rybakina, and they played well. I mean, that first set, it was just a similar quality in as the final in Australia. And
Hmm.
the big thing that really did, make a big difference for Sabalenka was that her double fault came back. She had been controlling that really well this year, in general, but in the final, it was an issue, and it's
Yeah.
particularly in the tiebreak. She had like five double faults in the tiebreak, and it
Hmm.
was important because the tiebreak ended, I think it was 13-11, so it was so close. And she was doing so well on return because she's so aggressive with her shots, but the double faults really, really made a difference. And in the second set, like there's something okay. So for Sabalenka, there's something that I will praise her on. She did take a little bit off her speed to try to get the percentages up a little bit.
Hmm.
Um, and so it looked like she was trying to problem solve out there, and that was a good thing. But the problem was that she came out of that tiebreak already sort of defeated, and it cost her an immediate break in the next set. So it just like it was a little bit like the match with Garcia where she lost the
Yeah.
tiebreak
Yeah.
against Garcia really close, and then immediately Garcia broke on the first game on the second set. It was a similar thing. She just came out not ready for that first game, and got broken. So honestly, I'm not too worried about Sabalenka. I think she did a good job in trying to adjust. Rybakina was just too good yesterday. She was hitting
Yeah.
the ball so well, and she can hit the ball, like she can hit winners from the backhand and the forehand really well. So you got to make her move a lot to be able to beat her, and nobody was able to do it this week. So great stuff. Great stuff from Rybakina this week.
Yeah.
Cool.
Congrats.
So this is
Yeah.
Indian Wells. We had Alcaraz and Rybakina as the winners, and
Yeah.
they're gonna look to repeat that in Miami. So shall we move on to the draws? In
Um, let's mention a few other
Sure,
players. I mean,
let's do it.
there was one match I think even I think you mentioned earlier, which was the Kvitova Pagula match,
Yes.
which is crazy. It went to a third set tie break, and they were kind of bouncing between match points. And if you didn't get a chance to see the highlights, I highly recommend it. It was
Yeah.
entertaining for sure. But yeah, I mean, Kvitova had a great tournament,
Yeah.
as well as a number of other players. I mean, Zachary too.
Yeah.
Um,
I was impressed with Zachary.
yeah,
I was totally expecting her to lose early in the tournament.
yeah,
But she actually, got to the semifinals, and she got definitely outplayed by Sabalenka. But
right.
Sabalenka is playing really good this year. So I
Yeah,
think all in all, it's a good tournament for Zachary for sure.
yeah, that's about it. There's some other players, but I think that covers it
Yeah.
pretty well.
Yeah, we'll
So
see
keep going.
how these players can do in Miami. So let's talk about that now. So let's go through the men's draw. We'll go
Let's
through
do
that
it.
first, um, and we'll do it together. Just you're seeing my screen, yes?
Yes.
Perfect. So let's go here through the top half. So let's actually look at the ranked players. So we will do um, a quick summary of who are the top seeds. So Carlos Alcaraz, number one seed in this tournament again,
I
because
still see
sorry.
the other screen. I don't see the draw yet.
Oh, you don't see the draw? Okay, give me
Yeah.
1 second. Let me go work through some technical difficulties. Stop sharing. Share screen.
All
Here we
right.
go. And now it should come up. You see it?
Yep. We're good now.
Perfect. Sorry about that. So we have here in the men's draw, we'll go to the seeded players just to see who are the top seeds. So we have Carlos Alcaraz, number one.
Mm,
Djokovic is not here again because of the same reasons, with the vaccination status. So he is not able to enter the country to play the Miami Open. So Alcaraz is the number one seed. Tsitsipas is the number two seed. Casper Ruud and Daniil Medvedev round out the top four seed. So actually, Daniil Medvedev jumped up quite a bit, up to number four. And I think that's where he deserves to be for sure.
yeah.
Um, and then we have rounding out the top eight, we have Felix, who went quite a bit up in the ranking as well with his performance in Indian Wells. We have Rublev, who's usually a constant here in the top 10, Holger Rune, and Hubie Hurkacz to round out the top eight seeds. And in addition to that, we have Taylor Fritz, Sinner, Nori, Tiafo, Alexander
Hmm.
Zverev, Hashanov, Deminor, and Tommy Paul, ranked in the 9 to 16 seeds. So let's look at first the top half, where we have Carlos Alcaraz in the same half as number three seed Casper Ruud. So that would be the potential semifinal matchup. So maybe let's talk about that
Hmm.
first quarter, where Alcaraz could potentially face in the quarterfinals. The highest seed there would be Holger Rune,
Really.
or the other possibility would be Taylor Fritz, the next seeded player. So some pretty good players in this quarter here. What are some initial thoughts from you, Jish?
Yeah, I think this is a great draw for Alcaraz, actually.
Yeah. Well,
Especially the
Rude
first
for
few
sure.
rounds. Yeah. And yeah, Rude, or Rune, yeah, being there. And Rude in the set, possibly in the semis.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think Taylor Fritz is probably a big threat there. Um, but I think he can handle, especially the at the form he's in right now. He's looking great.
Yeah, for sure. I think the quarterfinal might be his toughest matchup. Because he could potentially face Taylor Fritz or Holger Rune,
Right.
and
Holger
those
Rune.
those seem like the biggest threats
Yeah.
from this quarter. But even including the semifinals, I think that side, that quarterfinal matchup was probably going to be the hardest. Um,
Well, there's Sinner in there
there
in
is
the
definitely center
semis.
here, so
Yeah.
that could be also a potential difficult one. But in terms of seeds, I
Yeah.
think Rude and Rublev are pretty good draws there for Alcaraz. Um, so he obviously has a bye in the first round. So yeah, in the first few rounds, he could potentially face either Andy Murray or Maxime Cressy early on, and then after that, probably the biggest threat could be Tommy Paul, who's been playing great this year, making the
Right.
semifinals in Australia and having a really deep result also in another of the warm-up events before Indian Wells. Um, so that could be a threat, but all in all, I think Alcaraz looks pretty good to at least make the quarterfinal from this side. Um, what do you think, Josh?
Yeah, I agree. I think he can take care of Murray and Cressy, and yeah, Tommy Paul's gonna be a challenge, I think, and possibly Fritz or Rune. Um, but other than that, I'm expecting him to get to the semis. We'll see.
Yeah, absolutely. Anybody else that stands out to you in this quarter before we move on to the other quarter?
No, Schwartzman is not in great form. I don't think Shapovalov will be a problem. Um, yeah, I think we can move on to the next quarter.
Cool. For me, there's just one guy. I should probably mention him because I picked him in the semifinals of Indian Wells, and
Oh,
he
let's
he
see.
then ended up losing like in the first or second round. But Yibing Wu is in this side as well, and I'm pretty
Ah,
excited about him. So maybe he'll have a better tournament here in Miami. He does run into Rune pretty early. Maybe in the round 16. Um, but Diego Schwartzman in the next round, that's not a bad matchup for him because Schwartzman has been pretty bad recently. So he's the one guy that sort of catches my eye from this side. But yeah, we can move on to the next round, to the next quarter. So, like I mentioned, in the other half of this top side of the draw, we have Casper Ruud as the top seed. And the other high seed here is Rublev. So that would be the potential quarterfinal matchup if the seeds hold. But I think you and I would have different quarterfinalists here, right?
yes, I
Uh,
agree.
so who are some of the players that stand out to you here?
Yeah, so here, I mean, Sinner is obviously in
Yeah.
great form. I would pick him. And then just from what we saw last tournament, Zverev,
Yes.
he's back. I mean, that match against Medvedev really showed what level he's at. So, and you never know about Bautista Agut.
Yeah.
He's one of those
He's
guys.
always he's always tough. Yeah.
And I mean, uh, Dimitrov can also be a sneaky person to get through.
There's one
Um,
tournament a year where Dimitrov looks like the best player in the world. So
and he's
you never know
just
when that's gonna
somehow,
happen.
yeah, he somehow beats Federer, like
Yeah.
in the US Open or something, right? Um, Kosmanovic, he's he did well last year, right?
Yeah,
So
he did.
he's gonna have to protect his ranking. He's gonna probably want to play well. We'll see how he does. Uh, but no, I think Sinner and possibly Zverev will go through to the semis, or at least that's who I have going through.
Yeah, definitely. Notable on this side, Gael Monfils is trying to come back again
Right.
and do something. He's in this side of the draw. There's also Bublik and Wolf in the first round, so that might be the best match of this side for the first round. And the winner there would be taking on Rublev. But yeah, other than that, I think I agree with you. I think the names to look out here for potential quarterfinals are 13 ranked Alexander Zverev, and number 10 Yannick Sinner. So maybe we could, with that, we can move on to um, the bottom half. And here, leading the pack, we already mentioned Tsitsipas is the leader here on the bottom half of, or I guess the bottom quarter of the draw. And then on the other side, the top seed there is Daniil Medvedev. So let's talk first about the City Pass quarter. So top seeds that could potentially face in the quarterfinal would be Tsitsipas and Felix Auger-Aliassime. And to me, honestly, this side, just based on current form right now, I do favor Felix as between these two. Um, so I feel like this is more his sort of quarter.
Mhm.
Um, but other players that are here, I mean, we just had Tiafo make the semifinals in Indian Wells, and he's
Yeah.
in this side, and he would be a potential, um, he would be a potential quarterfinal matchups, right? Or no, round of 16
Round
match
of 16 for Felix. Yeah.
for Felix. So that would be a tough match there. Anybody else that jumps up to you here?
I mean, Hachinov could do something. I don't know.
Hmm.
He sometimes sneaks by, but yeah, I'm excited for that Felix and Tiafo match. I think that'll be a good one
Yeah,
if it happens.
definitely. I think for me, some of the players that jump out here, sadly so, I had to mention Dominic Thiem. Don't think that he's going to survive the first round, but who knows? Maybe he'll find his form at some point, but he's looking like he's regressed. We talked about it in our last episode, and nothing has
Yeah.
changed since then. So but he is on this side of the draw. Um, yeah, I think that's one of the bigger names that are here. Other seeds on this side, we have, Hashanov, we have Dan Evans, Cerundolo, Lorenzo Musetti, and Sebastian Baez. Um, Baez and Musetti, I think they're more dangerous on the clay, I would say. So I'm not expecting
Yeah.
too much from them here. Evans could be tricky. He had a good year last year,
Yeah.
so he might be a little difficult. But
He's
I
just a
agree.
good
I think,
hardcore player too.
yeah,
Yeah.
I think two of the three of Felix and Tiafo and Tsitsipas should make that quarterfinal, I believe.
You think Tsitsipas will recover?
Well, the only
It
reason
all
I say this
depends.
is because I don't see any threats really other than when he meets Hashanov. He
Yeah.
might be the biggest threat there, but I'm expecting him to at least make that match.
Okay.
So yeah. So let's move on to the other side then. So we have Hubie Hurkacz and Daniil Medvedev as potential quarterfinal opponents. Those are the top seeds from this quarter. We do have some notable names here. So we have Berrettini trying to find his level. I mean, what's happening with Berrettini? I mean,
Yeah.
he's really dropped off a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't
Yeah.
know. I
I
don't know what's
mean,
going on with him.
we saw him at the US Open practicing, so I'm
Yeah.
not surprised.
Yeah, I mean, he is a type of player that seems a little bit one dimensional.
Yeah.
And
Maybe he'll just show up in the grass courts
yeah,
again. Who
maybe
knows?
maybe he'll find his rhythm there.
Yeah.
But other players here, Cam Nori has been playing great, but who knows if he hit a wall? I mean, he looked really bad against Tiafo in that quarterfinal match. And I think the big name for me that jumps out here is, well, two things. Ben Shelton.
Mm, yeah.
Not only do I think he's a threat on this side, but I'm also surprised that he's even ranked. Like he's ranked number 32 in this
Seeded.
draw,
Yeah.
and he seemingly came out of nowhere, right? So what a great jump in
Yeah.
the ranking he has made. Definitely the result at Australia helped him a lot. Reaching that quarterfinal there, but
Yeah,
I'm
and
really excited to see what he can do here.
he'll be playing in Florida. I mean, that's
Oh
his
yeah,
they'll
that's
have
his.
a good fan base there. It's like
Was
a
it?
home
Is
court.
that where he go to college? Is that where he went to college?
Well, not in Miami, but I think
In
it was in
Florida, right?
Florida. Yeah,
Yeah,
University of Florida, I think.
nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
So
that might be a factor. You know that.
bring his whole college or
Well,
his whole
he might
university.
get either too like over amped, and not do well. But if he can harness it, it might be a factor. Um,
Yeah,
so yeah, and he has such a big game. I mean, he's
he
got
does.
that big lefty serve, and he moves so well for a big guy. You know, he's so exciting. I'm really excited to see how far this kid can go this year. And he might be somebody we're going to be talking about a lot, along with the other guys. You know, Alcaraz and Sinner and Rune. Um, so I'm excited about him from this side. Um, and yeah, I'm interested to see what Medvedev is gonna do. You know, Medvedev has gone to 4 straight finals. I feel like at some point he should get tired, but who knows? Maybe he'll continue his good run and try to make another final here. But yeah, that rounds up um, our draw discussion in terms of who's there, where who's facing who.
Yeah.
Maybe it's time to talk about predictions.
Oh boy. Let's do
And
it.
also at the end of this, we should also see how we did in the predictions competition. Spoiler alert,
Right.
great.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
But yeah. So maybe let's go to just directly to the quarterfinalists. So do you
Okay.
want to start?
Yeah. So right now, Carlos and I are have started this TNNS um, fantasy league. So if you guys want to join us, the description will be, or the details will be in the description and
Yes.
a YouTube video and in the podcast notes. So look out for that. But definitely follow us there. Yeah, for the quarterfinals, I have Carlos Alcaraz playing Taylor Fritz, and then Alexander Zverev playing Yannick Sinner, and then Cam Norrie. I'm
Hmm.
not sure. Now I'm kind of regretting that. Let's see. Cam Norrie playing Daniel Medvedev, and then Felix Auger-Aliassime playing Karen Hashinoff. So, what are your quarterfinalists, Carlos?
You don't want to continue your draw? Just go all the way to the end.
All the way.
I'll
Okay.
go all the
All
way,
right.
and
Okay.
then I'll
I'll
go
go all
through
the
mine.
way. So, semifinal, I have Carlos Alcaraz, yeah, beating Taylor Fritz. So then also Yannick Sinner beating Zverev. So it would be another Carlos Alcaraz, Yannick Sinner semi. And then in the bottom half, I have Daniel Medvedev beating Cam Norrie and Felix beating Hashinoff. So Medvedev, Felix in the semis. And then I have Yannick Sinner beating Carlos Alcaraz as revenge.
You did that
And
last week.
I did.
I also did that last
It's
week.
very close. It's gonna happen. It's gonna happen. And then Felix beating Medvedev. So this time, same as last week, I have Yannick Sinner winning the whole thing. We'll see how that
Wait,
goes.
did you have Sinner against Felix in the final and in Wells too?
Good question. Let me just
You
take a look.
remember?
I might have actually.
Okay, I'm gonna go through my thing while you
Yeah,
look
yeah,
through
yeah.
your thing. Okay, quarterfinalists, right? I have Carlos Alcaraz against Taylor Fritz. I have Zverev against Sinner. I have Medvedev against Ben Shelton.
Oh,
And
ooh, I like that.
I have Felix against Hashinoff. So we have 7 out of 8 picks the same.
Oh,
Um,
ooh, I like the Ben Sheldon getting
yeah,
into the
I went big on him.
quarters.
I went big on him.
I think that's a good bold move, actually.
Yeah, I mean
I like that.
his draw looked pretty good. And I'm banking on Nori being a little bit tired. So we'll see.
Yeah.
Semifinals. I have the exact same lineup as you. I have Carlos Alcaraz facing Yannick Sinner. I have Daniil
Okay.
Medvedev facing Felix
Felix.
Auger-Aliassime,
Oh,
and
who
I also
wins?
have Felix Auger-Aliassime making the final,
Oh my
but
goodness.
but against Carlos Alcaraz. I'm not gonna do
Uh,
it again. I'm not gonna do 2 weeks in a row where I picked Sinner against Alcaraz. I'm not gonna do it. At least if
Uh,
Sinner wins this time, I'll just say that I had it right. I just had it in the wrong weeks. Um,
trying to
so
increase your odds here, huh?
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So I have Alcaraz and Felix in the final, and I do have Carlos Alcaraz defending his title. I just think he's so good right now, and the only thing that will stop him, I think, if it's he gets a little tired from this run,
Or
um,
Sinner.
or Sinner.
Just
I mean, it can happen. It honestly can happen. I
yeah.
think Sinner is really close to Alcaraz, and he's already beat him twice last year, so he can do it. But for now, I have Alcaraz defending his title in Miami. I wonder if
He's
he's gonna.
probably gonna get a lot of support there too.
Yeah,
Miami.
people love Alcaraz like
Yeah.
crazy. I mean, they showed Pink so many. Did you see that Pink was in the stands? The singer,
Oh, I heard it that she was there. Yeah.
and she was like saying like she was like mouthing "I love Carlos" and like doing heart signs and stuff.
Oh
Like
gosh.
everybody loves this guy. He's very likable. I mean, he's always like saying hi to the fans and signing their
Yeah,
autographs and very
signing a lot of.
respectful
Yep.
to the players. So even Medvedev made that comment that he signs like or says hi to like 300 people a day or something like that. Um, so I can understand why he's so likable. He's so exciting too. I mean, you can't not get excited watching Carlos Alcaraz play. His game is so explosive.
No.
Um, so yeah, but I do have him defending the title, so we'll see if he'll be able to do that. But anything else that you want to add before we move on to the women's?
I think that's it. I mean, it'll be exciting. I mean,
Yeah,
ATP 1000 event again.
yeah, back to back. So yeah, so let's go to the women's side here. Um, so let me actually pull up. So I'm gonna go into my app as well and pull up my picks so I have them ready. Miami, WTA.
The
Okay,
quarterfinals.
I got it. So let's go through this draw here. So similar to the man, let's go see who the top seeds are here, 1 through 16. So number one ranked Iga Swiatek. She's still number one.
Hmm.
She struggled recently, but she's still number one. Sabalenka is number two. And then Jessica Pegula and Ons Jabeur round out the top four. Um, I'm actually surprised that Jabeur is still so highly ranked. She must have a lot of
Yeah.
points from like the end of the year or something, but she has not played well this year, and she's been injured too. So, Carly Garcia is number five, Coco Gauff number six, Zachary at seven, and Kasakina at eight. And then the rest of the 9 to 16 players are Belinda Bencic, Indian world champion Elena Rybakina is at number 10, and then Kudermetova, Samsonova, Beatrice Maya, Azarenka, Petra Kvitova, and Barbora Krejcikova are rounding out the top 16 there. So going through the different quarters, let's start with top half. So in the top half, we have Iga Swiatek is lined up with Jessica Pegula for a potential semifinal matchup. The other side, and for the semi matchup, would be then Jabor in terms of high ranks, right? It would be Jabor and Sabalenka. But let's discuss here at the top, in the top quarter, the Ciantec quarter. And some of the early matchups that she has are, in terms of seeds, we have Trevisan at 27 or at 25. And
Yep.
then we have Beatriz Maya and Ostapenko for that potential section. And then for potential quarterfinal matchups, you would have Kasakina, who's ranked at eight. But importantly, also in this side of the draw, we have Elena Rybakina,
Rybakina.
who
Yep.
has been very difficult for her, and she could be a potential quarterfinal matchup. So all in all, here, I think it's a good draw, except for the fact that Rybakina landed in this side of the draw. Um, so who knows, how if she's going to be tired or if she's going
Say
to have an off
Paula.
day.
Paula
But
Badosa is also there, right? I mean,
Rosa
she's
is here too, and she's
yeah,
actually lined up to meet Rybakina
yeah.
pretty early. And they
That'll
met
be an
in Indian
interesting
Wells.
match,
Yeah, they
right?
met in Indian Wells actually, and Rybakina did win that match. But Dosa, she won Indian Wells before, so she plays well on the hard courts. She hasn't been that great recently, but it'll be interesting to see if she can do something there against Rybakina.
Hmm.
Um, Kisakina has not really played that well this year, so I would have to favor Rybakina to make it to the quarterfinals from this group. And then I think Iga has a pretty good little section there, right at the top. Unless Ostapenko plays that one match in the year, kind of like Dimitrov, where she just blows you off the court, that could be an issue.
Hmm.
Um, but all in all, I think Iga and Rybakina might be headed to another matchup. Anybody else that stands out here? Jish,
No,
from
I
this
think
side, I will mention two people. Um, I have the
Fruhvirtova
yeah, we
jumps
have.
out.
So this
Yeah.
is one of the Frubertova sisters. This is actually the younger one. So we've been
Ah,
talking a lot about Linda
the
Frubertova,
Linda, right?
who had actually pretty interesting results last year in the Sunshine Double. I think she beat Azarenka, and then she actually won a few rounds in the Australian Open this year. But her sister, Brenda Fruhvirtova, she's been playing in the challenger level most of 2022. And now in 2023, she's played a little bit on some of the main tour events. So she is somebody to keep an eye out. She might face Petra Martic early on, and that could be a winnable match for her. So I could see her making it to the third round, Brenda Fruhvirtova. And I think she's only 15 years old, 15 or 16.
Wow.
She's very, very young. Um, the other player that stands out here is somebody who I also had going to the semifinals in Indian Wells, and that is Alicia Parks. She did not do well in Indian Wells. The pressure really got to her. She played a really, really bad match in the first round. um, but hopefully she can show what she can do, because she really did have a great tournament earlier in the year. She has a big game. Also a young player from the U.S. So let's see if she can this time harness the crowd and go pretty far. I mean, she's playing Kasakina potentially as the first seed that she might face in the next round if she can get through Mertens. And I think that's a good matchup because Kasakina she doesn't hit the ball big, right? And she also has been struggling. So that could be an opportunity. So I would like, Frubertova and Alicia Parks to make it to the third round and actually face each other. And that's something that would be exciting as two young players coming up. But that's pretty much it for that side of the draw. Let's go to the bottom quarter here and the top half. Um, Top seeds here, like I mentioned, Pegula and Coco Gauff. So that could be a potential quarterfinal matchup. Other interesting names here. For me, the most exciting one is Qinwen Zheng from China, and she is one of the young players up and coming. She's, I think, 19 years old, and she has a pretty big game. So I'm excited about her, and maybe she could do some damage on this side. Anybody else that stands out to you here, Jish?
Not too much, actually.
Yeah, so we have some players. I mean, Sansonova could be, can hit the
She,
ball hard, but and sometimes she can be, redlining her game and be
maybe
dangerous. But
Danielle Collins.
Collins as well could be
Yeah.
dangerous. He's been having a rough time at it at the moment. Um,
And they have the other Fruhvirtova
yeah,
sister too.
exactly. So that is the other name that sort of jumps out here. For Vertova could actually play Pegula in the second round, so that would be cool. Um, but yeah, those two for Vertua sisters, they are pretty exciting. But yeah, for me, I don't think anybody else stands out too much here. I think on this side, I would expect the seeds to hold. Um, but if anybody would challenge here, I think Zhang would be the one that I would pick to challenge. But with that, let's move on to the bottom half. So we have Zachary and Ons Jabeur in the same quarter here. But some names that stand out to me are Bencic, Kvitova, and Donna Vekic. All three of
Hmm.
them have been playing pretty well this year. Um,
Hmm.
so those are players that I do expect to make some noise. On this side, Kvitova and Vekic could meet up in the third round. So that would be a great third round match there. Um, One thing that really does stand out to me here is the first round match. Bianca Andreescu and
Oh
Emma
gosh,
Raducanu.
yeah.
What a first round match. That is crazy. Um, so the winner there could face Maria Sakkari in the next round. So that there is the most exciting part of this quarter for me. Um, but other names that stand out, Leila Fernandez is in this side as
Yeah,
well.
I was gonna say Layla,
Yeah,
definitely.
absolutely.
Um,
She could face Bencic
she
in the second round.
she's been playing pretty well. I mean, she had a
Yeah.
pretty great match in Indian Wells. I forgot who she lost to.
Did she lose to Garcia? I
Um,
think it was.
yes,
Yeah, it was a
and
good match.
that was actually a good match. It was a
Yeah,
little up and down, but um, she played well.
yeah,
Yeah.
definitely. She's always exciting to watch, and a match against benches would be really good in the second round. So
Mm.
would love to see that. I guess another name that stands out to me here is Anisimova, who really was looking like she was gonna be really good last year, and
Right.
recently has not really been able to play well and find her level. So we'll see if she can get back to it. In this tournament, but she has a pretty rough draw in the first. And after the first round, she would face Donna Vekic, who's very dangerous at the moment. She's playing really good this year. So yeah, I think those are the big names to stand out. I don't think Jabeur is gonna held up just because he's still kind of coming back from injury and not playing that great. So I look for either maybe Vekic or Kvitova, or even
Yep.
if Anisimova can find her level, any one of those I could see going a little farther from here. But yeah, let's wrap up the bottom part here with the discussion of Sabalenka's side. So we have Sabalenka as the top seed here in the bottom half, and her potential quarterfinal opponent could be Caroline Garcia. So that would be awesome if it
Be
happens.
great.
They played that great match at the WTA finals
WTA
last year.
finals. Yeah.
So that would be amazing to watch. But there are some names here as well that could be dangerous.
Hmm.
I think the biggest one is Barbora Krejcikova, who apparently cannot stop facing Sabalenka early in tournaments. They faced each other actually in Indian Wells, and it was a great match. And Sabalenka went through that one, but Krejcikova had beaten Sabalenka earlier in the year. Sabalenka only had one loss before that loss to Rybakina in the final there in Indian Wells, and it was to Krejcikova. So that could be a really exciting round of 16 match. But we have Madison Keys, who, on when she
Hard.
finds her rhythm, she can be very dangerous. She could also be a little
Yeah.
shocking to watch sometimes. So who knows with her? But anybody else that stands out to you here?
Um. Hmm. Yeah. Not too much. I mean, I'd like to see Garcia go through
Yeah,
here. And she's been playing real well too.
and she does have a pretty nice draw to get to the quarterfinal, I would
She
say.
does. She does.
Kudermetova is usually good, but she's been not that great this year. So does seem to be a nice draw for her to get to the quarterfinal to face either Krejcikova or Sabalenka. I think a first round match here that looks pretty good is, um,
Shelby Rogers.
yeah,
Yeah.
Shelby Rogers and
Sloane
Sloane
Stevens.
Stevens. I mean, they've both been
That'll be
struggling a little bit,
tricky.
but those are some good names. Two Americans facing each other in the first round should be a pretty fun match to watch in the first round. But yeah, that rounds up the discussion here in the draws. Pretty good draw, I would say. Maybe we can round up this with some picks.
Let's do it.
You want to go first? Or you want me to go
Cool.
first?
Sure, I'll go first. Yeah, so we'll start back up in the top half,
Quarterfinal.
in the quarters. Yep. So I have Iga Swiatek playing Rybakina in the quarters, and I
Rematch.
think that's just going to be a great Yes, great
I would
rematch
love to
there.
see that, to see if
Yeah.
Iga can make any adjustments.
Yeah, do you know how those courts are going to be playing this year?
They're a little faster than Indian Wells, but they're not.
Okay. Still
But
slow, right?
honestly, the court in Indian Wells should have favored Swiatek, not
You're
Rybakina.
right.
So I'm not sure what's
So
going on there. But Miami usually plays. There's also a
slow,
lot of
right?
humidity, so that might play a factor.
I
And
think so.
so in terms of
It's the
physicality,
dry heat versus the humid. Yeah.
yeah. So that might be
Man.
something. And Swiatek actually does well in those conditions, so that might play a role.
Hmm. Yeah, that would be interesting. And then I have Jessica Pegula playing Coco Golf.
Okay.
Um, and then have Leila Fernandez playing Kvitova and Caroline Garcia playing Zabalenka. So I don't know. Actually, if this becomes a reality, I'll be watching all of these matches.
Yeah, that sound good.
Sounds awesome, actually. And then in the semis, I have Rybakina beating Swiatek. No adjustments from Iga. And
Yeah.
then Coco Golf actually getting through Pegula and Leila Fernandez beating Kvitova.
Ooh.
And I know, right? And then
I thought you were just gonna
Caroline
put
Garcia.
just shoe in Kvitova for the title.
It was very close. I
She
think I
could
had
have.
to
I mean, she
switch it.
played well.
I had to switch it. At first I did, and then I picked Layla.
You were like, I
Um,
can't do it every year.
I can't do it. Um, and then I had Garcia beating Zabalenka. So that's a bold prediction there, but I think she can do it. And then for the final, I have Rybakina beating Coco Golf and Garcia beating Fernandez. And I have Caroline Garcia winning it all.
Beating
So
Rybakina in the final, you said?
Rybakina, yeah. We'll
Nice.
see. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if Rybakina wins again. She's been playing so well.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Those are good picks. We're actually pretty close. We're not that far off.
Ooh.
So for my quarterfinal lineup, um, I think we had all the same except two.
Okay.
So on the top half, I have also Iga and Elena Rybakina. I have Pegula as well, but I do have
Hmm.
Kinwen Zhang
Ooh.
making the quarterfinal instead of Coco Gauff. I have Leila Fernandez as well, making it through
Hmm.
there. And I have um, Donna Vekic making this quarterfinal match
Ooh.
against Fernandez. And then in the bottom, same as you picked, I have Garcia and I have Sabalenka. Then
Nice.
for the semifinals, I also have Rybakina beating Swiatek. I just need to see. It was just so one-sided, and it's been twice now. I think
Yeah.
I think there's a pattern forming, and unless Iga can solve that problem, I don't see her winning this match. So I got Rybakina again, winning that. Um, and I have her facing Qin Zheng. So I have Qin Zheng beating Pegula.
Wow.
Um, and then I have Donna Vekic beating Leila Fernandez. And I have Caroline Garcia beating Sabalenka. So same as you. And for the
Hmm.
final, I have the same two finalists.
Oh
I
my
so
gosh.
we picked both
What are the
finals the
odds?
same. um, and we have oh, not both finals because you picked center, but almost the same. And we have Rybakina and Caroline Garcia in the final, and I also have Caroline Garcia winning the title. So
Ooh.
we'll see. We'll see if that happens.
Okay.
Um,
This will
how
be
is it possible that
interesting.
we're picking so
The
similarly?
same people. I don't know.
Same
We didn't
people.
even talk about this
We didn't talk
before.
about this at
Yeah.
all. Like I promise you, listeners, this is not.
It's
this
not
is not.
staged.
This was not staged. So yeah, yeah, I'm pretty excited. I hope these matchups come to fruition because those would be really good
I know the
quarterfinal
quarters would be
lineups.
awesome to
They would
watch.
be awesome
Yeah.
to watch on both sides.
Yeah.
So yeah, so I'm excited about Miami, which is start. It's already started. The men start a little bit later, I think
Mhm.
they start in the next few days. So I will stop sharing this. I have to go back to the Skype now, don't I? Yes, and then I stop sharing. Okay, so now what we can do is wrap up the episode talking about two things. So number one, we have a little trivia, right?
Yeah,
This
we
time
do.
I'm gonna be the one trying to do a little better than just did last time.
What? What? What are you
I'm just
talking
messing
about?
with you.
Okay, since we're sort of on the theme, I mean, you can see in the background, I have my Federer
Hmm.
background, and you have your Nadal background. We're going to talk a little bit about Federer and Nadal at the Miami Open.
Ooh,
So
I feel like I'm gonna know it.
let's see. Okay, these are going to be, we're going to start off easy,
Okay,
and then we're going to get a little harder.
sure.
And it actually may not be hard for you because you know your Nadal facts here. Um,
Hopefully.
okay, so number one, how many times have Federer and Nadal played each other at the Miami Open?
Ooh. Ah, damn. I know for sure at least three of them that I remember. Um,
Okay,
I remember the 17. 17 must have been the
okay,
final, actually. Um, and I remember their first match ever
okay.
against each other. That was a 6-3, 6-3 win for Nadal.
Oof.
I do remember
Yeah,
that one.
you remember
Um,
the score.
I remember
That's
the score.
brutal.
Yeah, I saw the match, and I remember being in awe of Nadal that day. Um, he ended up losing the next match though, but it was a good win against Federer. Then the next time they faced was the following year in the final.
Okay.
And I remember that match very, very vividly because Nadal should have won in straight sets. So was this the last time that Miami was played 5 sets in the final? Was it the last time? Because I remember it was 5 sets,
Oh, good question. That was 5 sets. You're right.
and I remember that Nadal was
Um,
just dominating that match. Like he won the first 2 sets. He was up a break and almost a double break. He was up 4-1, and then things just went downhill from there. I remember he lost a tiebreak in the third set, and
mhm.
then got crushed in the last two. Um, yeah, I was actually at Nestor's house in Puerto Rico watching that
Oh,
match. Um,
nice.
I must have been in high school, I think. But yeah, I remember that match, and I remember the 2017 final was Nadal and Federer,
Right.
correct?
Yeah. Yep.
What I don't remember is have they faced another time there? And I'm gonna say no because Nadal usually does not play Miami, so I'm gonna say three.
I think you're right.
Yeah, three.
Yeah. Yeah.
Nice.
Good
Yeah,
job.
I know my Nadal things.
Yeah. Clearly.
Awesome.
Um, okay. Well, that's great job.
Thank you. I was ready for this one.
Okay. Well, the next one will be easy because you already said it.
Oh yeah. What was the next question?
Well, yeah. So, well, it was exactly what you already hashed out all the events. So, who did Federer beat to win his first Miami Open title?
Oh, well, you probably shouldn't have said that because I would not
You
necessarily have
wouldn't have
remembered that
got
was.
it?
Well, I would not necessarily remember that was his first title.
Ah, okay.
So
Yeah,
maybe I would have
I
gotten that.
must have messed that one up.
Actually, well, I probably would have said that it was his first because it was very early. It was like 20. Was it 2005 or something like that? Six? No, even earlier, right? Was it? It's around that, like those years, like 4, 5, 6, something like that.
Yep, it was 2005. It was that
2005.
next year when Federer beat him.
Yeah.
So Nadal beat him in 2004, like you said, and then
Hmm.
ended up beating him in the final the next year.
Nice.
So, hmm. And I guess this is the last one, and you already know this, but let's see. How many Miami Open titles has Nadal won?
That's a sad question.
Because you know the answer, don't you?
Zero. He has not won Miami, right? Ever?
Did he?
I don't think he's won Miami. Am I wrong? Maybe
You
he's
said
won it one.
he lost that time right after when he um let me just check this real quick.
Yeah, because I think the time he beat Federer, he lost in the next round. He didn't
He
win the
lost in the
title.
second round. He lost.
Yeah. And then after that, I think he just kept running into Federer and Djokovic.
I think you're right here.
I'm pretty sure he has not won Miami, which is so sad. He came close. Well, that match with Federer was the closest one, where he was like, he would have won if it was two sets. He
Yeah,
should he
he's
should have
never
won.
won it. He's never won it. Yeah,
Yeah.
you're right. I think that's is that the only. I think that might be the only Masters, right? That's
No,
eluded
he's
him.
also not won either Paris or Shanghai. I think Shanghai.
Mm.
Which one was Hamburg
He
before?
was close though.
Which one? Which one was close?
Hamburg, you said I think Shanghai, right?
Shanghai, yeah. So
Was
he's won
close.
that one when it was Hamburg,
Mm.
but the other one he has not. So I don't know which one of the two would be. I think it's Paris is the one that he's not won. And again, he's reached the final there. It's just that he couldn't finish it off there. Djokovic is the only man to win all nine
Oh boy.
twice. He's won them twice. That
It's
man,
pretty ridiculous.
he is definitely the stats collector. Djokovic, he has all the stats. But yeah,
Yeah.
this was fun. I'm glad that I was able to ace the Nadal
Yeah, you
questions.
did. Yeah.
Next time it's back to you. I'm gonna make a trivia for
Okay.
you in Monte Carlo. That's gonna be the next one.
Well, there's a lot of records broken there, right?
Yeah. Well, I won't ask you who's won it the most because the answer to any clay question is Rafael Nadal.
You sure it's
As you
not
can see from
Casper
my
Ruud? Just
Casper Ruud might break the record. Who knows?
he might.
Maybe if it
He
becomes a
does. He does
250.
have the 250 record, probably.
Yeah.
Cool.
Cool. That was fun. So we should do one last thing before we wrap up. Maybe I should share my screen again. But we do want to share a social media post. So we did mention that we were going to engage with our with listeners, with potential listeners, and go on social media and pick out our favorite social media posts and talk about them on the podcast.
Mhm.
So we are going to start doing that this week. We found a really cool one related to really appropriately right for this show because it's a Carlos Alcaraz related one. So let me just share my screen one more time. Um, okay,
Really good
and then
one.
here, can you see my screen?
Yeah, can see it.
So here, posted by the Spade Wizard. So I thought that this was a great post because this is when Sinner and Carlos Alcaraz were playing at a challenger event in Alicante. And it was actually, I believe, Alcaraz's first challenger win, apparently, from this post. Uh, he was um, he was actually losing this match, as you can see, 3-love in
Mhm.
the final set, but he ended up winning it. But how crazy that these guys were facing when, Alcaraz was 15 years old, Sinner was 17 years old, and they were able to now face in the semifinals and Indian Wells, and they already had that epic match at U.S. Open last year. Um, so this was my favorite post in this tournament. So we are gonna give credit to the Spade Wizard. We really like this post.
Nice.
What do you think about this,
One
Jish?
one interesting fact.
Yeah,
This is home court advantage for Alcaraz. It
for
is
sure.
because that is actually where he trains in
Oh, right. This is
Alicante.
the
So
Ferrero,
yeah,
the
yeah,
Carlos
Carlos
Ferrero,
Ferrero, yeah, challenger. So
the Ferrero.
um,
Yes. Very cool.
yeah, not surprised. He did win that one, right?
Maybe it was
So
rigged.
maybe it was
When
the
Carlos
line
rigged it.
calls were.
Yeah, line calls were questionable on this one. Yeah, but
Well,
it's
they
really
did
cool.
say they were both wild cards in the event, so I guess they both had some help.
Exactly. But good decision on those wild cards
Yeah,
because both
I
of these
know, right?
guys ended up being really good, and they're still
Yeah,
just developing. Things are just getting started with these two, so super excited to see them continue to battle it out. So thank you, the Spade Wizard, for this post. This was really, really cool to see. So let me just stop sharing again. And I think with that, Jish, we are getting to the end of the episode. Anything
yeah,
else that you want to talk about before we wrap up? I guess we should say that the next time we record, we are going to be discussing the Miami results.
yeah.
And it will most likely be an audio only podcast, but we'll make that decision later in the week to see what works best. But it will just be covering those results for Miami for both WTA and ATP. And after that, we'll have a little bit of a break, and then we'll cover the draws whenever they come out for Monte Carlo, which is there's going to be a 1 week gap between Miami and Monte Carlo, and then Monte Carlo starts. So those are going to be our next episodes, and that Monte Carlo draw should be a YouTube live. We'll try to figure out the logistics issues. But if not, then we'll just record it like we did today, and we'll upload it to our channel as well. You want to close us out, Jish?
Yeah, sounds good. And yeah, definitely check us out on all the major podcasting platforms. We're on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, and all the other ones. Please leave us some ratings and reviews. We'd appreciate your feedback to make this podcast the best it can be. Also, you can find us on Twitter and Reddit on Reddit at Point by Point Pod, as well as on YouTube at Point by Point Tennis Podcast. And yeah, that wraps up another episode of the podcast, and we'll see you in the next 2 weeks.
In
Yep,
the next 2 weeks, for sure. And don't forget to participate in our fantasy predictions competition, which
absolutely.
we will have in our show notes and in our video description as well. So thank you, everybody. Jish, this was a lot of fun.
So lots of
And
fun.
we'll meet up for the results for Miami next week or in the next 2 weeks.
Sounds good. See ya.
Talk to you later.